Where do I begin? Where do we begin? I have 46 chromosomes and you have 54. I'm a virtual scaffold for your DNA, along with bovine and canidae species. Your genomic sequence was mapped against mine. In places, our chromosomes match. They retain a conserved synteny with extensive regions of the human genome. Bits of you can be overlaid onto bits of me. We are mapped over by sheepish genes, paved over by woolly DNA. I am both sheep and human, an agri-body, a sheepish body. My ears belong. I belong. I belong here. I see a fragile beauty in my surroundings that inflicts wounds upon me. The biting cold, the prick of gorse and thistle remind me that I am still here. That I am still here. I was born into a family of cultivators, a long line of people who cared, a long line of people who grew things, nurtured things, and killed things. I was born alongside the young of others, small, pale mountain lambs. Although I am sure to have outlived my 1985 companions, the genetic material is still residual here. Like UV powder, it spreads itself around. Puffs of pure white dust settling into the soil like anthrax. Organisms, bacteria, parasites, fungi, plants, animals. We like to circulate, proliferate, consummate. We are a mobile lot, an assemblage of assembled parts, symbiotically needy things, relying on one another, a subsistence existence of fleshy masses more alike than our brains would allow us to believe. I'm waiting in my yard. I'm waiting in my yard. I'm waiting in my yard. A van comes up the road. It stops. The driver asks me a peculiar question.
Where you from then? Where you from then?
Machynlleth,
Where you from
I
then?
replied.
Where you from then? Where you from then? Where you from then? Where you from then? No, originally,
I was born in Machynlleth and brought up there, I say.
That's strange, you don't sound Welsh at all.
He said. My maternal grandma, she was from Manchester, right? And she got sent to boarding school. And, you know, she had elocution lessons. My mum sounds like her too, and so do I guess. Grandma's parents owned an ice cream factory in the city and sold their ice creams at the cinemas around the town. Grandma's father was an Italian man from Genoa in northern Italy. Her mother was from Harrogate. Grandma once got her tongue stuck on the frozen outlet pipe of the freezers in the ice cream factory. If you look closely enough, the very tip of her tongue is missing, and so is a large portion of her lung, which was removed due to infectious TB. Grandma is a dairy farmer now, and here lies the point of interspecies connections. Grandma fought a battle with TB for 2 years in the confines of a convalescent hospital. Her battle still continues, only not in her own body, but in the potential host bodies of her dairy herd. We are not so distinct. We are not so far removed from other animals.
So she's been in the show as well. She could have been
Being
one of those
human
8 sets of glasses.
is a frame of mind.
Right. Come on, Granny.
I have a soft spot for sheep. A real soft spot for sheep. I like the way that they look. Their soft, warm bodies, betrayed by their angular bones and joints. I like how they smell. That unmistakable, earthy, musty, sheepy, mucky, lammy smell offers me comfort, allows me to go back to moments of childhood, enveloped in the temporary companionship of an orphaned lamb who was just passing through. Even their shit smells of home. I like the way that they stick together, that they thrive on their unity, whereas we humans all want to be individuals, to stand out from the flock. I like how they tell you to back off, that high-frequency nose whistle, shh, and the stamp of one foot is a clear sign that you are not welcome. I like how they follow patterns of movement during the day, how they leave traces of this daily pilgrimage in lines on the landscape, convenient little paths for human animals to travel down. I like how they self-medicate, how when they're unwell they seek out specific plants and barks, how you often see them nibbling ivy leaves or willow bark for one ailment or another. I like how ewes with dead lambs will mourn their offspring, sniffing and licking her for days, willing the life back in and protecting the lamb from predators with the nose whistle, the front leg stamp, and if needs be, the full-on head charge.
You asked me about my first recollection of farm animals when I was growing up, and I can't really remember my first recollection because I was in a pram and was always watching my parents doing the milking in a farm milking bale. So that must have been my first recollection, the back end of a milking cow.
We used to undo the sheep's feet when they were shearing with hand shears. They used to tie their legs, didn't they? That's probably the earliest. Or we used to go and get the horses in for them.
Yeah.
In Glamerion, when they used to go and gather, we used to get the horses.
The other thing I remember is giving names to our cows, and they always had names, and we loved finding names for them, and they were wonderful like that. They were characters in their own right. So those are my first memories, really.
Deep russet plumage, dark, beady eyes, and an orange beak. Her red wattle wobbles as I carry her under my arm. She's my first memory of a non-human relationship, my first knowledge of animal. It's a warm, sunny day, and I have a plan for her. Rwy'n llusgo ryw hen fath tin allan o sied, a nôl dŵr o'r tap tu allan I roi ynddo. I drag an old tin bath and fill it up with water from the outside tap. I catch Lucy and carry her over to the bath, where I wash her in the cool water. I loved Lucy so much that I always felt the urge to squeeze her so tightly that she would expire. But her untimely death came in the jaws of a cunning, toothless badger. I don't remember feeling sad. I don't remember being told that she was dead even. I imagine that even at the tender age of 5, animal death was just a part of farm life, and I was already aware of it. I'm not sure how old we all were, our short legs swinging beneath the space of the shearing bench, pitch marked in bright blues and reds, the traces of blood from a bad case of foot rot trapped in the grain of the wood. It's freezing cold. Our breath freezes in mid-air. Pearlescent vapours crystallise in the dim lights as we watch from our seat. Earlier in the day, before the light faded and dusk set upon the messy contours of the yard, Chris the butcher came. He sent Mum to the house for a bucket of warm water, and by the time she'd returned, the sheep were dead, killed by a captive bolt of a stun gun at point-blank range, their throats slit and spewing steaming blood until only a trickle remained. Their eyes had glazed over, their skins removed by the time we arrived on the scene, 6 little legs in wellies walking up the hill to the shed. By the time we'd entered through the steely blue galvanised doors, the sheep had been reduced to carcasses, their entrails contained in various buckets around and underneath some sort of makeshift table. We watched, entranced by the viscerality of it all. Not repulsed or fearful, just in awe. Those fluffy clouds, reduced to raw red meat and bone. The cow extends her head over the wall in my direction. I grab and pull a fistful of long green grass from beside my feet. I hold out my hand in anticipation. The cow's rough, long tongue eventually seeks out the grass from my hand, curling powerfully around the clump of grass, a twisted, muscular contraction. She takes the grass, her eager big brown eyes watching me. Her breath is a milky mixture of acetone and grass, pure sweetness. I've tasted her breath in glasses of creamy milk ever since. Milky, acetone, grassy, creamy, cowy, pure sweetness. I taste pasture and cow shit and cow and beef and breath and grass. I cannot separate the milk from cows, nor cows from milk. I cannot separate the taste of lamb from the smell of the sheep. I tend to separate, to pull those two things apart. A leap of faith, a leap of unknowing to knowing. What about death?
Yes, well that's something I have thought about. But I remember my first encounter with death, and that was when one of our cows, and she was called Wendy, she broke her leg on a hillside, And my father said, there's nothing to be done, she has to be shot. And the vet came and he told us to stay at the farm and not to come, to stay away. But we did, we sneaked there and we watched the whole episode and we were very upset about it, of course, because she was a lovely cat. Well, just thinking about it now makes me cry, because I remember, you know, sorry. Switch it off. Sorry.
I can go back even further. I suppose the first thing I seem to remember when I was very young was when they used to slaughter the pigs. So I don't know how old I was, 5, 4. Anyway, and then I once walked into the shed where they used to keep the car, the wanus they called it. And that was my first shock at death, because there was the sheep hanging there dead that had been, they used to cut their throats and let them bleed to get the blood out.
Because we see death every day with animals. Sheep, there's always a sheep drop dead, doesn't it? Or something wrong with it. City people, town people don't have a clue. They just think of sheep like, oh, no, fluffy things. They don't realise that they just drop dead now and again.
Do you think, as growing up on a farm, it gives you a different experience of death to the average?
Yeah,
person?
I think so. I think you know, it's a natural progression in a way to life. But and I work as a nurse and I've got this nurturing instinct in me, so I want to save everything. On the other hand, I can see that when something's suffering, that, you know, it's a happy release.
Well, if I was shooting a vermin, yeah, that doesn't bother me. You know, you're doing it for a reason, aren't you? Mm-hmm. You know, crows which peck sheep's eyes out, sheep that go on their backs can't get up at lambing. The crow comes along and pecks its eyes out. So you have to put a sheep out of its misery of its suffering, any animal's suffering, and, you know, the best thing to do is to put it out of its misery if there's no way to, you know, for it to get better.
I am 9 years old. I'm out in the field below Gall-y-Bladder, playing with Bonnie. We're on our way down to the river to make a dam. Here, in the field, I hear a bleat, and I see a newborn lamb left all alone. We walk over to the lamb and think we're doing a favour by attempting to get it back to its mother. We're playing at being shepherds, really. But each time we try to move it in the direction of a ewe, it turns around and follows us. We eventually give up trying, and instead we let the little slip of a thing sit down with us. From the farm opposite, I hear Dad's voice echoing through the valley.
I hope you're not touching that lamb. Leave it alone. I hope you're not touching that lamb. Leave it alone. I hope you're not touching that lamb. Leave it alone. I hope you're not touching that lamb. Leave it.
We did leave it,
I hope you're not touching.
and we continued our journey down to the river to play. The very next day, Glyn walks into the kitchen with a dead lamb, its body unnaturally stiff and rigid.
Look what you did.
He says to me. Dad is understandably angry, and I am very upset. I should have known better than to play with a newborn lamb. I should have known better. From that moment, that heartbreaking moment, I realised the precarious nature of our relationship with other animals. How interference can be more than detrimental. How care and compassion comes from understanding some of the animal's characteristics and traits, from knowing how and where one can touch or cannot, without imparting harm. I never forgot that lamb. I cry sometimes at loss, but the tears don't last. I grew up with death, with watching you knock a lamb's head against a tree for immediate euthanasia. I became hardened to it, to blood and guts and gory stuff. I don't think about those animals I've knowingly and willingly sent off to slaughter. I don't think about the animals I've watched you shoot. I am complicit in this. This I know. And every now and again, I feel sad.
Lle ydych chi wedyn te? Lle ydych chi wedyn I wasanaethu wedyn?
O, wasanaethu i Cymraeg gwrthwy ges I gyntaf.
Ie.
Ys I fan I 2 blynedd, dwi'n meddwl.
Ie.
Es I wasanaethu wedyn I Tŷ Gwyn.
Aberosan eto?
Aberosan.
Ie.
Am 2 blynedd am o'n I fanno, ynde.
Ie.
Dwi'n credu mae'n mynd i'r Ostyrnog nes I wedyn.
Ie. Ydych chi'n am spel?
Ys yna tan 1920.
Ie. Oeddech chi, chybod, gwaith cyffredinol neu oeddech chi'n bugeilio neu fath ysyn fan yno?
Yn yr Ostyrnog?
Ie.
Ys i'n gwneud dipyn o bob peth na fel galwn I nhw stalwm pengwell.
Ie. Pryd ydych chi ddechrau cael diddordeb mewn defaid ma'n dweud, ydyn ni?
O, ie. Gwyd rhan boi Ostyrnog, oedd o a diddordeb mewn a dwi mewn defaid.
Ie.
Oedd o'n abod rhan efo bob un.
Oedd o?
Oedd. Oedd o'n pan mae'n un dyna nhw i'r ffalt yn de.
Ie.
Oedd i'w wenw ar bob un oedd ewn o'ch yn de. Oedd. Wel, ys i'n neb yr un fath am o felly yn de.
Ie.
I stifle tears with the back of my hand. Turn away from him so that I don't feel his anger and sadness. I soak it in. I can't help but feel it, absorb it. Empathy can be a painful thing. Later I walk through the parched grass on the esgyrn, wrapped up in layers of clothing, the north-easterly wind choking me. I lean into it, let it take my weight before I fall, knees first, onto the hardened, peaty earth. Let me suffer too, because I can't bear it anymore. Let me dry out. Let me feel the hunger so that you do not have to. I look down, there, fleshy green rosettes of overwintering thistles gnawed to the ground by ovine teeth. They are starving. This is a sure sign. I meet him at the ridge of rock barely covered in a layer of browned grass. I clamber onto the back of the bike. My throat constricts. I whimper slightly. He doesn't notice. As I see the damage that the weather wreaked on the land, and tears fall silently, stifled by the bitter wind as they make their way down to the ground. The only moisture this land has seen in weeks. I bat them away with my ski glove. It will not be okay.
Yr yma ar ôl i 1947, weld y llanast oedd yma. Yn dweud wrth i weld.
Dau hen blwyddyn gofyn I amdani tre byddwn ni byw, dwi'n meddwl. Oedd I'n ddifrifol amser ni, oedd yn wir. A mi barodd.
Gant, a Merin yn Wrecsam wedi golle, wedi bod I sef.
Cant, ie.
Cyn I ni gymryd drosodd yn...
Ie.
Ein o'n ei gel allan o'n newn 1930 a focio'n...
Serious.
Oedd e'n red all, dwi'n meddwl, amser ni.
O mae'r flwyddyn yna yn sefyll allan yn dydy fel un o'r rhai gweitha, mae neb yn gofio, dwi'n meddwl. Paran hir ynde, oedd hi ymlaen i fis Ebrill yn doedd hi.
I think some of the old ways are going because we're all getting caught up in red tape now. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved these days, and so it's not quite a way of life. A lot of farmers' wives go out now to earn a living, and I do myself. I work at Bronglais Hospital, and it was brought to our attention recently that I am the major breadwinner here at the moment. There's a lot more sociability about farming then. You know, nowadays the farmers are on their own out there. They get help now and again, like your brother, he comes to help his father, you know, now and again, because mostly he has to go out to work to earn a living, because there isn't the money there to pay a full wage to him.
It's late. 11:30 p.m. to be exact, on a dark and very wet February night in 2009. I head down the road, a head torch on my head, shielding myself from the sheets of rain coming at me from all directions. I reach the gate. It squeals ever so slightly as I push it open. I walk around the edges of each of the 4 fields, checking in hedges and ditches, in favourite places. In the last field that I check before I walk home, there is only a single sheep, and I catch the shape of her in a characteristic birthing pose. As I walk in her direction, I notice a small white object some 10 metres away from her. At first glance, it looks like a piece of wool. But as I get closer to investigate, I can see the tiniest movement of a rib cage, slow, laboured breaths in and out. I put my finger in the lamb's mouth. It is freezing cold, a sure sign that hypothermia has already set in. I leave the lamb where it is and I quickly walk over to check the ewe. Beside her are 2 lambs. She's already licked them clean and seems to be content with her 2 offspring. I go back to the 3rd lamb. I decide that he will die if I leave him. So I undo my coat and I place the lamb on my chest. Something I've seen my father do. Then I zip up the coat over the top of him and I walk home. I wake Johan from his sleep. We use a stomach tube to get the milk into his belly. In the morning, we are woken by the bleating of a lamb. He is standing and stretching and curling his top lip, a look reminiscent of Mick Jagger. After his stretch, we name him Mick. He was a funny little thing. He lived with us for a few weeks. He had this huge personality. He enjoyed prancing about in the evening, clip-de-clop on a laminate flooring. He loved to chase Spike the terrier around and to follow me around whilst I hoovered. He liked it when you scratched him under the chin or stroked behind his ears. There came a time when we moved him out of the house and into the shed, and during the day he had the whole of the farmyard to himself. Other lambs came in and out of his life as they were orphaned, then adopted. We sent Mick to the flock one day and left him there. I felt it was time that he learnt to be a sheep. One day, as Johan was sorting out some sheep and lambs to sell, he suggested that we might send Mick with them. Mick was culled, killed, sent to slaughter, and I helped to send him on his way. For me, Mick had just been another animal passing through. And from the moment he came into my life, I built our relationship on a knowing that eventually he was always going to be sent to slaughter. And yet, it didn't stop me from caring about him. from loving him even.
Do you think the future of the uplands in Wales is?
The future of the uplands or the future of the farmer in the uplands. Two separate things, I think. I mean, if you want people to continue here farming, then they do need help. They will need to be subsidised in some way, and it's no use just subsidising them to create habitats for birds, because at the end of the day they need to produce lamb meat for the market, and the system of hill farming means that you need hill land to put the sheep on during the summer months. Well, they wanted us to remove the sheep, or wanted people to remove sheep, because they say they were being overgrazed. If you take sheep off completely, what you get, the farmer knows how many sheep you can put on a hill without it being, overgrazed. If you keep too many there, the sheep are going to suffer.
What do Welsh Mountain sheep mean to you then?
What do they mean to me?
Yeah.
I like looking at a very nice sheep and thinking, that's a very nice sheep. Yeah, I bred that. No, I don't think that really, but you like to see some good sheep walking around your land, and it's something you feel you've achieved, I suppose.
And what, in your opinion, do animals teach us about being human?
Oh, but we have to learn compassion, and you've got to put yourself in their place. Be kind to them, treat them well, feed them well. Yes, if you look after them, they look after you, really, basically.
Our journey here is about becoming human. Sheep give us our humanity. They make us human because we are brought up beside them, muzzle to muzzle. They draw us into relationships of care and compassion and make us try to see the world through ovine eyes. Before even the utterance of our first words, we are already at ease in their company, already aware of their bodies and of their touch. We have a soft spot for sheep, a real soft spot for sheep. We like the way they look, their soft, warm, woolly bodies betrayed by their angular bones and joints. We like how they smell, the unmistakable, earthy, musty, sheepy, mucky, lammy smell offers us comfort, and when I die, allows us to go back to moments of childhood, enveloped in the temporary companionship of an orphan lamb who was just passing through to be fed to the sheep. Even their shit, so that they might consume me for a change.